My field is laboratory medicine. No one knows what it is. Even the doctors don't know what it is. It's basically everything and anything you can do from different body fluids, hence diagnostics, hence my topic, diagnostics. So you're gonna get quite smart here today, so that's awesome. And I like introducing my science. It's a really fun thing to do, so you can find me on all social medias. That's my handle. Follow me if you like me, please, thank you. Okay, let's start. So I want to tell you a little story, and my story is about this young lady and her company. Her company is called Theranos, and her name was, well, it still is, she's still alive. Her name is Elizabeth Holmes. She actually made her company back in 2003. It got a lot of funding, like millions and hundreds of millions of dollars.
1.4 billion.
Yeah, and actually it was valued at 10 billion in its peak in 2013. But what she wanted to do, she wanted to miniaturize these tiny little blood tests. Actually, that's how tiny it is. She is holding it in her hand there. It really was like this big. And the testing menu was supposed to be 240 tests. Very big project, right? You know what? It failed, and she went to jail. She's now behind bars, as you can see.
Not yet. Okay, not about it.
Well, it still fits. It still fits.
Okay.
And the problem with this was the menu itself, 240 tests. As a laboratory medicine doctor, this is my field. I'm going to tell you right away, 240, not possible. Each test we do in laboratory medicine is very different. It depends on what you're looking at, proteins, antibodies, DNA. It's so completely different. And one size does not fit all. It was not possible. But maybe we could actually do something similar. Maybe if we focus on one thing at a time, if we do like one cancer and one type of test, maybe we could actually do something like this. So let me introduce you to melanoma. This is what it looks like. This is a cut through of the human skin. And melanoma, like all other cancers, has different stages. When it starts forming, it's stage 0. Something just goes wrong. It's a dysplastic nevus, a wrong birthmark, and then it starts going down. It starts going through the skin. It comes into contact with your skin and immune system. Once it spreads the lymph nodes, it's called stage 2. It goes even to the regional lymph nodes, stage 3. And once it goes all over the body, it forms nice little bunches of metastatic melanoma cancer cells away from the local site called metastasis. Then it is called stage 4. So we want to diagnose it, we want to cure it, we want to find it. And the best way to find it, cure it, and just get rid of it, cure everyone, is if we find it in stage 0, 1, or 2. In stage 4, we can't do much anymore. We have some options, but it's still very hard. So before we all start looking at our birthmarks and going, oh my God, I'm gonna die, let's go to the basics, okay? If your birthmarks are not asymmetrical, if their border is fine, if the color is correct, if the diameter is small, and if they're not evolving very fast, you're fine. We can all calm down. We don't have to worry about it. Probably not melanoma, but if any of these A, B, C, D, E's are there, maybe it's time to go to the doctor. But we're not talking about the melanoma itself today. We're actually talking about how could we diagnose it? How could we get into this tiny little diagnostical device? And one option actually is autoimmunity. So the normal immune response is when something our body doesn't know comes into contact with our body. So the body reacts. It starts producing antibodies against that agent. The other option, which is quite bad, and which is called an autoimmune disease, is when our body starts attacking itself. And that might happen due to lots of different reasons, but one of the reasons it might happen is because the normal body cells become altered. Something happens to them. We're interested in that in cancer diagnostics, but we're even more interested in if something isn't really expressed before, becomes expressed. And one of the options of proteins that are expressed kind of disappear and then become re-expressed are CTAs. These are cancer testis antigens. They are normally found in placenta and testis. None of them in normal tissue, but if cancer happens, they become re-expressed. There are over 140 members of these proteins, but the ones we looked at were MAGE-A10 and MAGE-A4. So we actually looked at this back in 2018. We took a bunch of patients, 183 patients, and looked at, do we find that their body has started producing these autoantibodies against these proteins? And yes, actually about 8% of these patients did have an autoimmune reaction. And if we looked at stages, as I said before, stage 0, 1, 2 is when we can still cure it. This is the best diagnostical stage, basically. In stage 2, they had this highest response. So could we make something like Theranos product out of this? Actually, we could, yes. And we already use this kind of autoantibody diagnostics in our normal everyday practice, and we use it in a line blot. This is my example of a line blot down here. So it's a thin strip that has proteins on it. We put on patient blood fluid, which is called serum, and then we see if it gets a reaction or not. So yeah, we use it. We could downscale it, we could totally do it. The other option, what I personally looked at, is what do cells produce? Could that be used as diagnostics? And cells produce proteins. We already use lots and lots of proteins in cancer diagnostics. For example, in melanoma, routine practice is protein S100 that we use a lot. And Theranos wanted to also have this one, alpha-fetoprotein, in their test menu. So very valid. Yeah, proteins. You know what? I think proteins are boring because everyone does them. I don't want to deal with proteins. Everyone looks at proteins. Routine clinics look at proteins. Proteins are boring. I want to do something more. I want to look at extracellular vesicle proteins. And extracellular vesicles are these tiny little outbuddings of cells. They can be microvesicles, so up to 1,000 nanometers, exosomes about 50 to 100 nanometers, or apoptotic bodies, like really, really big ones. And all of them also contain proteins. So those are the proteins I'm interested in when we're talking about diagnostics. And that's what we did. We did about 56 patients from our 180. We purified these EVs with 2 different methods. We looked at proteomics. We looked at all the different proteins with both the different methods we found. With one method, we found more of nice CD markers. With the other one, we actually found everything that can come along from blood. And then we actually picked some of them and ran Western blots and looked at them in different stages. So technically, yes, something like this could be possible, but could we go into this tiny, tiny, tiny little Theranos thing right away? Not really. This was even one of the reasons why we had 2 different purification methods. No one really knows how to do this yet. We are limited by the technology available to us today. We first have to figure out what we want to do and how we want to do it.
Microphone, a little bit. How many followed this last segment? Please raise your hand. Slow down just a little bit. Sorry to interject.
Well,
I wanted to kind of calibrate a little bit.
Yeah, well, if you give me 10 minutes, that's what you're gonna get. Okay, so
What's the correct response? What is the correct response?
Thank you for the feedback. It was very good.
You get what you ask for.
Yeah, okay. So could we make Theranos for something like this, where if we concentrate on one disease and one type of analysis, if we make an analysis that can be used in a small platform, it has to be fast, accurate, specific, with low positive, false negative rates, yeah, we could make it work. And I actually have a minimal viable product here that I'm going to skip through because I'm at 9 minutes and 15 seconds, so we're just going to go. But yeah, my minimal viable product would work, and I would not go to jail. She hasn't gone to jail, but I would definitely not go to jail, so that's good.
You have an extra minute. You have an extra minute because I interjected, so don't worry. Just slow down.
Yeah. Anyway, if you want to know about more what we do, we have a webpage, Kurkla. I put a lot of photos and stuff up at Tartu Science. I had a lot of social media, as I already said. And we have a lot of people with who we work with all the time. So the last slide that you did not like. Thank you everyone, and questions.